The Ladies Ball podcast is in partnership with the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville, Tennessee. The Road to Knoxville features over 400 girls basketball teams ranging from 4th to 12th grade, competing in bracketed play across the country at 7 regional events for the chance to compete at the national championship. We will be dissecting women's basketball by talking to players, coaches, advocates, and promoters in the game and the who's who in hoops. Get the 411 as we take you with us on the road to Knoxville. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Ladies Ball podcast. The Ladies Ball Championship is in partnership with the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. This podcast dives deep into the X's and O's and showcases the stars of the game from every corner of the basketball world. Hi, I'm Celeste Gehring, your host, and I'm going back to the basket with someone it's just an honor to go back to the basket with. It's Elizabeth Liz Galloway McQuitter, and Liz has been involved with the game of basketball nearly her entire life. She began playing in middle school and quickly developed into a star high school player. From there, she played collegiately for UNLV and eventually a pro career in the WBL. But after she was done playing, she stayed in the game as a coach as well for over 30 years. Today, she's currently on the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame board, helping promote the great game of women's hoops. Liz, it is truly an honor to have you on.
Thank you, Celeste. It's an honor to be here.
Oh my gosh, I just love your energy. We're going to get all into all sorts of good stuff. Let's start off with first, what was it about basketball that drew you into the game?
You know, I came in our neighborhood. I call it the neighborhood gang. We played all kinds of sports. Small town USA, a dirt road. We really didn't have a lot, but my mother bought us sports equipment every Christmas and every summer. And I don't know how she did that or why, but we would play volleyball net, softball. And one summer she bought us a basketball goal and a basketball. And we nailed it to a pole and started playing and fell in love with the game and have been playing ever since. And that was when I was in elementary school, like fifth grade. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I got to junior high, started playing. I'm from a small town, Rockdale, Texas. And girls sports was big. I mean, that's what you did. You played sports. And so I went right into basketball and I fell in love, and the love affair continues.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me the state of women's basketball when you were playing in the early 70s. What was it like back then?
Well, I call that era like an era that we are so happy to be part of. We just happened to come along at a time when Title IX was enacted in 1972. We were in high school, didn't really know what Title IX was, but on my board, Legends of the Ball Inc., that's our board, we have women from Georgia, Texas, Mississippi, Iowa, Kansas, and of course, all of us didn't have sports, but the great state of Iowa. Our vice president, Molly Boland, is from Iowa. And then Charlene, Trish from Georgia, Peggy's from Mississippi, DK, Retha, and I are from Texas. So girls basketball was played. It was big. So unlike a lot of places that didn't have girls sports, we played our whole lives going into high school. And now you get ready to go to college and you have an opportunity for an athletic scholarship. Mm-hmm. So obviously at the forefront for us was always education. That means I get to go to college and play basketball, but I get to get my degree, which was the ultimate goal. So you're talking about the newness of Title IX, getting the opportunity to play in college. A lot of these bigger teams, and I started off at Temple Junior College first, playing for Hall of Famer Fran Garman, who is also she's a founding member of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame and on the board as well. So I played for Coach Garman, and we won the first junior college NJCA national championship. So everything was new, and I call our generation a generation of first. Not the first to play the game, obviously, but the first junior college national championships, the first Olympic team, the first pro league, the first student athletes to get scholarships, the first African Americans on our teams. So that's what I mean by a generation of first. So that's what the 70s was like for us. We were unassuming trailblazers, as I call it.
And what was that ever scary? Did it ever feel like overwhelming or anything like that?
No, no, not scary, just fun and exciting and carpe diem, seizing the day, seizing the moment, seizing the opportunity. And we were already in love with the game. So
Mhm.
every step was just another opportunity to continue that love affair, I always say. And then getting to go to college and then getting to go to UNLV. I remember going that far from home because Temple was just 50 miles up the road from me. And Coach Dan Ayala, God rest his soul, my coach at UNLV, was an assistant with Jerry Tarkanian. And he
Ah,
took over the women's program the second year was in existence. And he came looking for players, and he signed 3 of us off of that junior college national team and started that program at UNLV. And that was exciting because we saw stars even in our gym. And when we go to the casinos, you could see anybody. So it was really like a little small town girl in the bright lights all of a sudden. And then after my career was coming to an end at UNLV, uh, we got wind that there was a women's professional basketball league. Well, nobody grew up thinking that we would play pro. So that was exciting. And to go to Chicago was exciting. That's the team we went and tried out for, thinking that I once again get to continue to play basketball. So there was an innocence to us, and just for the love of the game.
yeah. And I love that we're talking about that because, a lot of basketball players you talk to now, whether they're high school trying to get that college scholarship or, they're in college and they're trying to go pro, they do talk about it's exciting, but they're also terrified at the same times,
Mhm.
that like the pressure and everything, just like all eyes are on them. So I love that you're talking about it from this place of love of just you wanted to go out and
Yes.
just play. You just
And it was
wanted to
new.
be, yeah,
It was
yeah.
new, so there was no room for fear. I think they have all these opportunities now. This was new for us. Even though I grew up in a state where girls' sports was played, the collegiate side of things and getting a scholarship, getting it paid for, and then going playing pro. Nobody ever we didn't have that dream growing up. And I often say when you're a pioneer, when you're a trailblazer, that's part of it. You're going into uncharted territory. So there was never a fear, there was excitement,
Uh-huh.
and just you of course I'm going to take that opportunity. Of course I'm going to Chicago. Of
Mhm.
course I'm going to go try to get this opportunity to continue playing the sport that I love.
Yeah, and I want to break this down a little bit more because I am from a small town in Idaho, and going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana was like the big time for me, right? Because it was a much
Mm-hmm.
bigger city. It was totally a different culture. Like everything was different between Idaho and Louisiana. So when you were one of the first female basketball players to receive that scholarship at UNLV,
Mm-hmm.
and you were from this small place in Texas, how did it feel to go to a place like Las Vegas?
It was wide, just like a little country bumpkin in a lot of ways, and going to Las Vegas of all places. So, but the good thing is, I went out there with with my best friend and teammate Deborah Wadi Rosso. So we went out there together, and my mother, it made her feel more comfortable too, knowing that I was going with somebody, and my other teammate Donna Wick. So there were 3 of us going from Temple Junior College. So that kind of made it a
Mm.
little more less scary and a lot more comfortable going with my teammates.
Yeah. And how would you describe your career at UNLV? Let's start there first.
My personal career or just our career there?
Your
Per-
personal.
Personally, it was, I became a starter. Um, I learned so much about defense from Dan Ayala, with that Tarkanian team. They thought the running Rebels just scored, but they were very innovative with defense. And it really, I mentioned that because after I went pro, I became known for my defense. I led the league in steals, and I was nicknamed the Bandit because of my ability to steal the ball. So I had a great career personally. And then as a group, as a team, we burst on the scene. By my senior year, Delta State and Immaculata were the top teams of the era, much like the Tennessee Yukon days. So it was them. So we had this, Coach Ayala went after the best teams. We had this tournament of champions, and we actually beat both of them in that tournament. And we were ranked number 3 in the nation at that time. So the program he really got it jump started and was the most successful coach in UNLV history just over the next, I think he was there for 10 years maybe, but just was a successful program and really put UNLV on the map.
And so take me through that moment when you found out that you could be a pro player. Because like you said, there was nothing like that at the time. And to
Yeah.
know you could go become a pro player, what was that like?
Well, Karen Logan, and there's a name that I want to talk about because Karen played with the world famous Redheads, and then she was working with the founder and the owners of the WBL to help get the league started. She came to Las Vegas to recruit us. And she was with the Chicago Hustle. So she obviously invited us to come try out as free agents for the Hustle. So we're sitting there talking to her, and we're actually very giddy. And I can just remember going, "Oh my God, uh, there's a pro league, and just the newness and the excitement, and not knowing what it was going to yield for us." So we took that chance. We went to Chicago and we tried out, and luckily for us, we made the team and signed as free agents because they also held a draft. So they did draft players. But she knew about us because she had been in Utah as well, and we played against. So she knew about the talent on our team. And
Mhm.
actually, 5 of us from that team that year ended up in the WBL. 3 of us ended up on the Hustle. Myself, Deborah Waddy, Janie Fincher, Janice Fuller ended up with the Milwaukee Does, and Belinda Candler ended up with the Houston Angels. So 5 of us from that team that year ended up in the WBL as founding members.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what I was reading about is you were at a WBL reunion in 2003, and that was a catalyst to really start telling the story of the league. What
Yeah.
happened in 2003 that caused that?
Well, what happened was we realized nobody knew about us.
Hmm.
And it's still the battle that we wage, that we fight, even though we've made a lot of inroads at the Hall of Fame. And working with Dana Hart, we were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018 as Trailblazers of the Game. But the catalyst for me had started in 2003. And then after being inducted and being on stage, it was the same. Nobody still knew about us. They didn't know the full scope of our history or all the contributions we made to the game and continued to make to the game, even to this day. We went into coaching. We have coached WNBA, ABL, collegiate, high school players. We never left the game. We continued to pass it on and pay it forward. So it's just that desire for the youth today, and for those even beforehand. Like, we've worked with Cheryl Swoops and a lot of WNBA players that didn't know the history. So they don't know whose shoulders they stand on. And
Hmm.
everything is the growth of the game is based on just the WNBA professionally and just the NCAA collegiately. Well, you have a storied history of the AIAW years for college and the WBL and all the leagues that started and kept trying after but only one can be the first. We were the first, but there were other leagues that tried to start after, leading up to the ABL and then the WNBA. So that's just a tip of the iceberg of our history. And we are still fighting that battle to get this history. It's such a rich history with so many layers and so many contributions to the game. And it's just a shame that it's not common knowledge, that it's not cemented in the history books, that we cannot be used as a reference, as a guide, as a touchstone for all these players of today. And
Yeah.
that's our goal.
Right. And that's what I love about the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, because
Mhm.
being able to see and really see the pictures and hear the stories and read the stories
Yes.
about players like yourselves, that it was because of you that I got to play, right? So
Yes.
it's just like having that gratitude and that feeling of, oh my gosh, thank you so much that you did all these things to make it happen so that I could play, and then I did things to help other people play, right? Like, it's
Yes.
that continued legacy. So I just feel like with the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, they do such a great job of telling everybody's story. And I love that you're getting out there because, when Dana was on, we talked about Title IX because she was speaking in Virginia Beach when I was speaking as well to the
Uh-huh.
ladies basketball tournament, the ladies ball basketball tournament. And she was talking about Title IX, and a lot of those players did not know what Title IX was. And I was like, honestly shocked, Liz. I thought, wait, what? You don't know what Title
No, they
IX is?
don't.
But
They do
how
not.
how would they know if they weren't educated and told about it? So I love that you are educating about the
Mhm.
WBL. What's
Mhm.
something you really want people to know about the WBL besides what you just talked about? Like, we are standing on the legacy of what you have built,
Mhm.
which I think, is there like that's it and everything, but is there something else that you would like to tell people about the WBL?
Well, the WBL, I would like to talk about us as being multiple trailblazers that culminated with the WBL. We are Title IX trailblazers. We are AIAW trailblazers. We are Olympic trailblazers. And it was that talent pool that started the WBL. A lot of unheralded players in name only. And then some of the best players of our era, Annie Myers, Drysdale, Nancy Lieberman, that came later, played the second and third year. But the first year, that league was founded by unheralded players in name only,
Mm.
because we were all Americans and Olympians and the best players on our teams, and a lot of teams that had just started. So we are multiple trailblazers, but it took Title IX and it took the AIAW to get this pool of players that were ready to step into that moment and form the first women's professional basketball league. We are a generation of firsts, and somebody had to open that door and keep it open for every league that tried afterward, and for the WNBA to be where it is today.
Uh-huh.
And we want you to know your history. And so we look at people's gauging the growth of the game just based on the NCAA, just based on the WNBA. Go back farther. You have to go back farther to truly gauge how far we've come. You can't say the game has come a long way. A long way from where? From your vantage point? From
Mhm.
your 22 years or 18? No, the game has come a long way. And as members of the first women's professional basketball league, we just want the WNBA players in particular, but all the youth, to know the history of where women's professional basketball started. And we represent that history.
Hmm. And I played under the late coach Sue Gunner. Played for under the late coach, Sue
Oh, I
Gunner.
know
Played for
Coach
her.
Gunner. We know
Yes,
Coach Gunner well. Deborah
yes,
Thomas on our board played for Coach Gunner.
yeah. And she brought in Annie Myers Drysdale to speak. So, just some of the names you're throwing out, it was just an honor to hear,
Mm-hmm.
everybody speaking about the game of basketball and how much they loved it. And just
Oh yeah.
it's so inspiring to hear your story and everybody,
Mhm.
that's in your world to hear the stories of the first, right? Because like
Yes,
you said,
yes,
it's never going to be a first one again. Yes, it may
that's
look a
right.
little different, but you were the very, very first. So, oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's just giving me goosebumps.
Yeah.
But let's talk about after you were done playing, did you ever think about walking away from the game, or you obviously went into coaching? What drew you to the game? Like you just wanted to stay in
Oh,
it your entire life?
when the league folded, and Rita Easterling, who was just inducted, she played. I played with Rita on the Chicago Hustle, played at Mississippi College, and she when she was giving her speech at the press conference, they were asking her about the league and stuff. She said, "When the league folded, a piece of us died.
Mm,
It's like." To get the opportunity to play and then have it snatched away. I would like to ask a WNBA player, what if the league folded? What
mhm,
if it folded today or tomorrow? Just can you imagine what that feels like? And even though it only lasted 3 years, it was still, we had started that and got it snatched away. I fell into coaching by accident. My former marketing director with the Chicago Hustle was working at Northwestern University. And he reached out and told me there was an opening for an assistant coach there. So I applied for the job, and that's how I started in coaching at Northwestern as an assistant. And I went from there to a small college, Mundelein College, then to Dartmouth, to DePaul, Lamar, Northern Illinois, and Texas A&M in college. And then I coached high school for 8 years after. So coaching kind of found me. I never planned on going into coaching, but it is probably the greatest gift I was given because of the young women I was able to coach and impact, and they had an impact on me. And I tell you, that is my life's work, even now, in dealing and staying in touch with them. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, and watching them go on to be coaches, and then watching their players go on to be coaching. So we really have so many of established that coaching tree, and that's our gift to the game too. We coached, our players are coaching now. And so we look at it as carrying on our coaches. You mentioned the great Sue Gunner and Jody Conrad and Pat Summitt and Fran Garman, Dan Ayala. These were all our coaches. And then we are carrying on their legacy. And our legacy is still unfolding through the women that we coached and continue to pass it on.
Mm-hmm. And one of the ways you're continuing your legacy is through your nonprofit. So tell everybody about your nonprofit. What is it called? Tell us all the 411 we need to know.
Yeah. Legends of the Ball, Inc. After we were inducted in 2018, we said we have got to do something. And what came out of that was 12 of us got together. It was spilled over from 2003, where that was still burning inside me, and I just hadn't acted on it because I was actively coaching. But it was just so obvious that we have to take ownership of our history. We can't sit back and wait for someone else to tell the story. And it's best told by those who lived it. Nobody can tell it the way we can tell it. And so we formed Legends of the Ball, Inc. We're entering our 6th year this year. December will be 6 years. We've made so many inroads. We give scholarships. We get most of our work, our mission accomplished through collaborations with the WNBA, with Athletes Unlimited, with Women X, with Wilson. Wilson produced that first ball. When you talk about the gift that keeps on giving, Karen Logan, who I mentioned earlier, designed the smaller 28.5 ball, and we introduced that ball in the WBL. Nobody knows
Really?
that. Yes,
Wow.
before that, everybody played with the men's ball before that. And so then it went away, and then 1984, the women adopted it, that 28.5. But we were the first to introduce that ball that was whose idea was Karen Logan, and Wilson produced it. So our mission is to promote the historic and social relevance of the WBL, to inspire future generations to break through barriers like we did, to become leaders for positive change like we did, to realize their potential like we did, and so that's our mission. We do that by, our mantra is passing on, paying it forward. We have given over 30 scholarships. We collaborate with We Coach. We're collaborative partners with We Coach because coaching, we had such a big impact on it. We have given 4 tuition scholarships to We Coach to help young aspiring coaches. And we work with Women X and collaborate with their educational platform to sponsor fellowships for their collegiate fellows. So we continue to give back in that manner. And we every level, every age, from elementary, high school, collegiate, Athletes Unlimited, WNBA, we reach out to try to share this history so that it can become the reference it needs to be when you're looking back and gauging how far the game has come. So that's what Legends of the Ball Inc. does, and we are great collaborative partners with Dana Hart at the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. We have a great display there. Go check us out when you're there. And we work along with her in promoting the history. And we don't just talk about the WBL. We acknowledge every league that came after us that we know of that chipped away until we got the ABL and the WNBA. So that's what we're about.
Yeah, and if somebody wanted to check more like into maybe a scholarship or having you come speak at their school, how would the best way to contact you guys be?
Reach out to us. Our website is www.legendsoftheballinc.org, and there's a place on there where you can contact us if you're interested in helping or being helping the organization or interested in our scholarships. Our scholarships are done by recommendation or contact, because trying to just manage the massive number, we're just not capable of that. So if you're a coach and you're listening and you want to recommend a student athlete, and then that's how we screen and get our candidates that way. And as far as coming to your area, we are not a brick and mortar. We're in 5 different states. We're in Texas, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, and California. Our board members are. And so our scholarship group represents those areas, and we've given scholarships from Kansas, Iowa, Texas, Georgia, Arizona, all over the place. So um, reach out to us, and they can come and speak in those different areas. So we're kind of spread out.
Mm. Such great work you're doing. It's so inspiring. And, the
Mm-hmm.
WNBA was started the year after I graduated from college. And so some of my teammates went on to play, which was so exciting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And now watching the WNBA and college players, how do you think that the game has evolved, like from your point of view? What's changed?
I think what is changing, we talk about it now, we still think we did some things better, like offensive rebounding and moving without
Defense.
the ball. It's positionless basketball they have today. We were very post oriented and inside out game. But I
Mhm.
think for me personally, I think the game is, they are, excuse me, they're doing more younger. They're more advanced at a younger age than I
Yeah.
think our era was. I mean, they're playing earlier. They're getting exposure earlier. They're getting the training earlier. They're getting the skill set earlier. And so I think that translates into, you've got junior high kids and high school kids that are so skilled and knowledgeable. I
Hmm.
think that is one major change. Obviously, all the advantages, all the things that they have to look forward to, the things that they're able to get now. I mean, that's without saying. But the
Hmm.
game has been good for a long time, and I think if you go back and you look at it, you're going to see that players have been doing what these players are doing for years, for decades.
Hmm.
There's stars in every decade.
Hmm. And when you talk about young players, what it reminded me of too is, like my niece plays travel ball, and of course, we've been talking about the ladies ball tournament.
Hmm.
So there's all these great kids that come and they play, and there's also they put a lot of pressure on themselves though now, right? Because they're seen by
Yeah,
social media and all of that. What do you want girls to remember when they're playing the game? Obviously, you love it so much, and I wish I could
yeah.
bottle what's inside of you and put it in every single kid, but
Uh-huh.
what do you want them to remember when they're out there playing?
I think don't lose sight of fun. I'm not the first one to say this because we had so much fun and we loved the game and we loved what we're doing. And also, don't be so one dimensional and put everything into just being a basketball player. You're more than just a basketball player. Don't let it define your self esteem and all those things. Of course, we want you to be confident in all those things. But and realize there's a school, Legacy, the School of Sports Sciences. One of my former players who also went on to be a coach, and she founded this school based on the premise that if everybody's not going to get a college scholarship, everybody's not going to play pro. The statistics bear that out. But
Hmm.
there's so many careers. That school is about careers in sports, and there's careers that have just popped up in the last few years that continue to evolve. That play the game, play it hard, love it, give the game all that you can, and the game will give back to you. But if you can have a dream, don't be afraid to dream the dream. But know that if you want to stay around the game, there's more ways than just being a player that you can stay involved in the game, because the facts are everybody's not going to go to that next level and that next level.
Hmm. And
But
that's one of the, yeah, right.
that
And
doesn't mean you can't still be fully engaged in the game you love.
hmm. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things I love most about the ladies ball tournament is when I saw it in real time last year,
Mhm.
they bring such great speakers like yourself to come and talk and educate and talk about different
Yes,
things that are going on in the game so that all these girls see role models that they
yes.
can say, oh, okay, if I don't continue on playing for whatever reason, because I mean, knock on wood, unfortunately, injuries happen as well to
Hmm.
athletes, there
Hmm.
is another way to still love the game, but not have
Yes,
to be actually on the court playing it, right?
yes. And you can still build those, be connected with those relationships.
Hmm.
Because I think that's the thing that people want to continue. There's nothing like the camaraderie, and you can attest to this, of being on a team, in sports. It's just different. And if you haven't been a part of that, that doesn't mean whether you're in cheer or in debate, or that you can't build camaraderie in other ways. But let's face it, sports is that great uniter. and that sisterhood or brotherhood that there's nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the things that you preach, that you want to look for and glean from your experiences. And you don't have to lose it just because maybe your career doesn't lead you to a collegiate scholarship or opportunity or beyond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I have two more questions for you, Liz. The
Mhm.
second one is, what work does women's basketball still have to do in your eyes?
Uh, Women's basketball overall,
Mm-hmm.
I think um, I was so taken aback by the media's play and new fan bases play that pitted us against each other. I don't like the territorial attitudes and stuff. For example, I talked to so many WNBA players and know that everybody's against Caitlin, everybody's against Angel Reese, and the name calling of these women. And there probably were some, but I think they were the just very few and far in between that might have had a personal grudge or beef. And I think those that came out and spoke, like Tarasi in the beginning, Super said she's going to have a learning curve, and she did, but nobody doubted that they would be impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the professional level, I'll start there. I think we've got to really figure out how we can combat what has been thrown on them to be these jealous, spiteful, dirty players, that are hating on Caitlin or hating on anybody that has superstar status. I don't think that's the majority of the women in the W. I don't think it. And I know for a fact it isn't. And there were some rough fouls. If you watch them play against each other, take Caitlin out of the mix, and they're just playing, and take Angel out of the mix or any of the other rookies, and they're playing. They play hard and physical. We
Mm-hmm.
played hard and physical, So, but I think that was perpetuated by the new fan that just felt like there was this war against this new generation of players. At
Mm-hmm.
the collegiate level, I think when you look, I think we can't lose sight with the NIL and all these deals. I think we've got to really try to maintain that love of the game. I think there's the loyalty, the college hopping, I call it. I hate to see it. We have coaches have careers too. I don't know if I could coach today. You bring
Mm-hmm.
in these players and you don't have the right NIL opportunities and they leave. So I don't know how you can rein it back in, but from a coach's perspective, it's really tough coaching in today's game when you have players that you can't guarantee you're going to have for 4 years or 5 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's got to be addressed in some way. Uh, just maintaining loyalty to the school and not just, coaches' careers are on the line. At the
Mm-hmm.
high school level, I would say starting junior high school, teaching self-esteem and focusing on mental health. And like I was talking earlier about careers in sports other than playing, the reality of sports is that the majority of you will not get a college scholarship by the time you're in high school and will not um, go to the WNBA. That's the reality. But teaching, uh, giving options and focusing on mental health and ways to handle those disappointments, the highs, the lows. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I think that's probably for every level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think as the growth continues, just really focusing on the sisterhood, you know, uh, that should exist in the W on the collegiate level, but I think in the W especially is where we've seen so much negative press. Even though there were so many positive things to talk about, I would love to see this sisterhood, and I don't know how they can pull it off. Maybe having more opportunities where the leadership in the W and the Players Association, address these issues. Just I'd love to see them come out and be more vocal about it. Hey, that is not how we feel. We're happy that the league is growing. We're happy that the rooks and the upcoming talent is helping bring people into the games. I'd love to see more of that because I
Yeah.
just thought the negative voices were way louder than the positive.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. It was kind of like, they've done that for a long time with the men's game. And so they just,
Mhm.
started doing on the women's side.
Yeah.
So the final question would be, what are you hoping your legacy to be on the game? Obviously, you're the first, but I mean, I just want to hear, what
Yeah.
is that legacy you really want to leave?
I mentioned earlier, and I talk about it all the time. I want us to bring this history to the forefront, and not just. I can't. I know that we've been playing since 1892, and I've followed the game, so I know the accomplishments that every decade brought, and how they were game changers and seminal moments, and grew the game and moved the social needle forward. I would like to be remembered as a group, as an organization that moved that needle forward. I would like for us to become a reference, a guide, and a touchstone, as I mentioned earlier, because we talk about that all the time. If you would use us as a reference, you would know the important parts of history and whose shoulders you stand on, even before us, because we knew the women that came before us. We knew our history, and a lot of that had to do with our coaches. I would like for our accomplishments to be cemented, and that when you're using it as a reference, it's easy pull. It's easy to parlay when the broadcasters are talking about it. When the sports writers are writing about it, they can go back and refer to it and compare and gauge, and then for the young people, I think they are cheated when they don't. The history makers are cheated, first of all, but the young piece of people are cheated as well when they don't know whose shoulders they're standing on. I think it was a shame that Caitlin was breaking the NCAA record, but she wasn't. They had to rephrase it because she wasn't breaking women's college basketball's record. That belonged to Lynette Whittard, who remained in the shadows and didn't really get her little brief moment in the spotlight until it became evident that she held the collegiate women's basketball record, as did Pearl Moore and all the others that came after. So I would like for them to know, so that they are not cheated out of that history, and knowing the women that opened the doors and kept them open. I would like for us to be remembered as those who opened those doors and kept them open through our work, through our coaching, through our work with Legends of the Ball Inc. We have continued to keep those doors open for 3 generations after. For generations after us. And so that's it. A reference, a guide, and a touchstone, that you can reach back to and refer to and learn from.
Well, so inspiring. All of you that are listening to this podcast, please send a thank you to Liz. Liz, I thank you for everything you've done in the game. It is so inspiring. Your love of the sport is contagious. I just want to go and shoot some hoops right now. So
I know, right?
it's so fun to talk to you. All right, so everyone, we're going to continue to blaze on with our next guest coming up soon. But Liz, thank you again for being on. It was just truly an honor. Truly an honor.
Every opportunity we get to talk about it, I call it a grassroots effort. Somebody's going to hear it. Somebody's going to pass it on. Somebody's going to follow us and learn more about that. And that's how it's done. That's how the word gets out.
It is. All right, everybody. Work on getting the word out, help make that impact, grow the women's game. You can do that by following us on at Call to the Ball or at Call to the Ball Pod. So stay right here, stay on subscribing to YouTube on this channel so we can get you all the big names in basketball, as well as all of those that make the game shine. Make sure to follow the Ladies Ball podcast at Call to the Ball Pod for the latest on the road to Knoxville. Tell all your friends and support women's hoops as we grow. We are stronger together. All roads lead to Knoxville.